Alrighty, let's do the color wheel. That's our next element of art that we want to look at. We've worked with just finished a texture, and so now we're going to be playing with the color wheel. Alright, so there's a color wheel, has them all laid out, and we're all familiar with that, and we've seen it for many years, and many of us have learned to create it. And that's what we're going to do here. And this is a prism, and basically a prism is going to separate the light, and it allows for us to actually see the light spectrum itself, and it separates it so that we can actually see the rainbow. That's how it works with the water droplets in the sky, and the water droplets themselves create the prism, and then the light is fractured and allows for them for you to see the rainbow. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at drawing or creating a circle. All right, so I'm going to use the protractor is a tool that we use for making circles, and usually the way I start this is I work with dividing my paper. So I'm going to divide my paper here, and I'm going to measure, because this is a piece of 11 by 8.5, I'm going to measure 5.5 here. I always do a point A and a point B, otherwise I can't get a straight line. So from here, 5.5, and I draw my straight line. I've got lots of, you're going to see little tiny pieces of sequins because my grandchildren were playing with it this weekend. So it's all over the place. All right, now I am definitely a creature of habit. I'm going to turn my paper so I can actually pay attention to where I'm at, and I can easily see my ruler. I'm on the end there, and I'm doing it's 4 1/4 because this is 8.5. So 4 1/4. Slide my ruler down. Point B. 4 1/4. And then draw my line. And this is a simple way to create that center point. So what you're going to want is to create, you're going to get this template. I'm actually going to give you this. You can actually print this off if you'd like. But I want to make sure, if you can't get to a printer, that you can actually make your own. And so what I've done here is I've got the protractor, I'm laying it down, I'm going to put my zeros on the line there, and my 90 at the top, and I'm going to trace around the outside, and I'm going to mark it at the 60 or 120, the 30 or 150, over here it's 60 and 30. It's every 30 degrees here, right? Alright, so there we go, and those are all marked. And now the biggest deal is when you go to do this, you can't forget the zeros. Notice I have to put my protractor back on that line on the 0. If I do this, I'm not going to get a circle, I'm going to get a weird shape. It's going to be an elongated circle. It would be more of an oval-like shape. It's not really, though. I'm not sure what you call that. Alright, there it is, lined up on the zeros, and now I'm just going to trace around it. Alright, there's my circle. Now, notice I did not mark the bottom ones because a lot of times that can throw you off. So, all you have to do, find the mark you made earlier, find the center of your circle, line those two up, and draw all the way across your paper. Line it up with the center and the mark you made earlier, and go across your paper. This one's going to be a little short, so I'll have to slide it down. Back up. Alright. Center of my paper, or the center here of the circle, and across. And last one, center with that mark. It's a 150. Again, I'll have to slide it down. The ruler's not long enough. That gives me, there it is. Pretty easy. earlier when I did it, I made one, and I am going to go to it. However, I made a blob on here, and it drove me crazy. So one thing I have learned in years of creating is if you make a mistake, make it again. It's okay. It doesn't hurt my color wheel. And if I might just leave it like that, or I might add more. I could do other things, but basically I have to leave this area open for the actual coloring itself. So we're going to play with how do we actually get a color wheel. Well, I'm going to ask you to color it a specific way because it makes it a lot easier to read. And when I say that, I'm talking about reading it from the standpoint of my eyes reading each one that I have to look at. So it just helps me. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our primary yellow. And you're going to go to the very top right here. And the primary yellow is going to go into this spot. Now yellow is hard to see because its contrast between the white and the yellow is so, they are so close. But I'm just going to put a really light version of yellow in here. And then I'm going to drop back. See, I'm going to leave it light right here. And I'm going to drop back and I'm going to darken it. So I'm just going to darken it just a little bit more right here. So I'm getting a second value. And then I'm going to drop back again, darkening it. And then really load it in there, right here in the corner. So what I get is a variation of my yellow. Now I'm going to look at the second primary color, and that's my blue. Where do I put the blue? Well, it's important to know that they are the primary colors. So the primary are red, blue, and yellow. I started with yellow, and now we're going to do 1, 2, 3. This is my blue. So just remember there are 3 spaces between the primaries. Alright, so now I'm going to lay in a nice light blue value. And then I'm going to, I've got my nice light one here, overall light value. And then I'm going to drop back and I'm going to build up. Notice I'm going over the entire area, just like I did with the yellow. So I'm building up a second value of blue. And then I'm going to drop back again. So far I've got 3 values of blue. So I've got 1, 2, 3. And I drop back and get one more, 4. I want you to get 4 values of each color. The problem with yellow is it's very difficult to see. But you should be able to actually notice the 4 here that I have of the blue. Alright, I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, and there's my red. Notice 1, 2, 3. So as long as you remember 1, 2, 3, you'll be fine. Then put a layer of very light value of red in the red spot. And then you're going to do the same thing you did before. You're going to drop back and make 4 values in each spot. I'm going to stop for a moment, leaving my red just like that. And then we're going to look at what happens when you mix red and blue together. So we have red and blue. And when you mix these two together, we get a violet, which is our secondary color. So we have a primary and a primary mixed together to make the secondary violet. And so I am going to go ahead and put violet in here, a nice light violet. And then I would do the same thing that I was doing with my blue, my yellow, and my red, is I would drop back, building up that value. I like a smooth transition. So 1, 2, I'm going to go a little darker. 3, and then I'm going to build it up pretty good and dark to get my 4. might have to pull it back just a little bit more to see it. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get at least 4 values. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, then we have our primary yellow and our primary red. And what we get is our secondary orange. So orange goes here. It's our secondary. So I'm going to do a light version of it laying right in here. Just my first layer of color. Now we take our primary yellow and our primary blue, and we mix those together. You're going to get the secondary green, and so green goes here. So we've done our primary and secondary. It puts our color wheel looking really good. And remember, I'm going to do dark to light on every one of these. So again, I put a layer of a value down, then I drop back and I build that color up. 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4. So you should be able to see 4 values. Alright, then you have what is called tertiaries. So here's a case where you have your secondary and your primary, and when you mix the secondary green and a primary blue together, you get what is called a blue-green. And note that I am saying blue-green because the primary should come first when you're speaking of color. So it should be blue-green. Alright. So it doesn't really matter which one I choose. I can choose the green. And I can lay it down. And I'm just going to put the very light version of the green. And really lighter than the first time I put it down. And then I'm going to take my blue. And I'm going to mix those two. Now I'm going to drop it back. I want to keep the blue in my hand and add a little more blue to this. And then I'm going to mix my green in. Drop it back. More green. Then more blue. Drop it back, build in my blue-green. And there you should be able to see that this one is green, that one's blue-green, that one's blue. And what you're going to do is you're going to go all the way around this way. This one's going to be blue-violet. And then red-violet will go here. And then red-orange right here. And then yellow-orange. And then finally yellow-green. Now there's something tricky about yellow, and that's why I've kind of skipped over here and I kind of went all the way around like that, because yellow is so intense that it sometimes can look a little grainy if you put the yellow down first. So with yellow, it's the only one that I would say wait on the yellow and put the other 2 secondaries down first. So I am going to go ahead and put a green down. Just lay a little green down. Then add my yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and this time I am definitely picking up the green, and I'm putting the green down again, putting a second layer, and then I'm going to go in with my yellow again. There's something about yellow. It needs a little bit more care. And then I'm going to drop the green in there again a little bit further back. yellow over the top of that. And I am going to go ahead and sneak that yellow in there, and then I'll put some green on top. I think it'll be okay. So you should be able to get 4 values of your colors. Alright, so when you've gone all the way around, doing every one of your colors, with your colored pencil, getting 4 values, these are not my favorite. I have to say, Crayola color pencils work really well with Prang watercolors. I just left school and didn't grab a set, so I'm stuck with what I had here, which was something that I just had at home. So I found the colors I felt like worked best with the watercolors, but that's not my favorite, I have to say. These are not, I don't think they're blending as nicely as your Crayola color pencils would. Alright, so I'm going to bring in my actual palette knife here, or palette, not knife, but palette. I'm bringing in my colors. Alright, and what we're going to do is we're going to mix here and actually apply them to our actual piece, okay? So I'm going to move it off for a second so you can see. Alright, this will work. Alright, well, I always start with yellow because yellow can be easily contaminated. So I don't have a way to dry my brush. I need that. I don't know what I was thinking. I set myself up without. Okay, so here's my yellow. And you want to keep your yellow as clean as possible without everything's in it. So that's why I start with yellow first. My water is cleaner. It's better to start with yellow. And so what I'm going to want to do is lay in a darker version of this color. So I'm going to take yellow. Thanks. I'm going to take yellow and I'm just going to put it in here, right here, dark. I have a dog who's decided that something's bugging him out there. And then I'm going to add some water to it, diluting the color a little bit. And then I add a little more water to it, diluting the color. And all I really require of you guys is to get at least 3 values of your watercolor. Now this paper is not as good as, say, watercolor paper, so it is actually going through the paper. The water is going through. You can see that it's going through. And as soon as it does that, it doesn't give us a true reading of color there. But that's okay, because I do see 1, 2, and 3. If you have any issues, you can always go back and add color here, tip it in the water, and then do a little more. So if you're having any issues and you don't think it looks good, and I've already taught how to do that, we're just diluting the color each time. Alright. With watercolor, though, you want to skip. You do not want to paint the yellow-green or the red or the yellow-orange yet. You want to wait. So I am going to jump on over to my blue. And notice I have my paints wet. That makes a big difference in the way I have already put water in my set. So I'm going to take my pure color right here, putting it in. Put my water where it belongs. Put it in the water, dilute it a little bit, drag it on down. That's 2. And dilute it again, and 3. Stretch it on out. I usually don't work in this large an area, but it'll be okay. If you're bugged by it, add more color. You can go back in and enrich that color. Remember, we go back in, just add a little water, drag it on down. And again, I'm going to skip a space. So I'm looking at my primaries right now. And I'm not going to do the whole watercolor wheel because I think you can use your imagination, but I am going to play with mixing of my secondaries. Secondaries I don't have to mix because they're right here. See, my green's already here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my green right out of there, but I do not have a yellow green, so I do need to make that. Because I've already done my yellow, and I think it's fairly dry, I'm going to sneak in here and try the yellow-green right next to it. It should be fairly dry. All right, now I'm making myself a yellow-green. If you feel like that yellow-green is too dark, clean your brush off, add more yellow to it, and I felt like it was a little dark. I like that. All right, now I have my color. Do not try to make these colors on your paper. It will make a mess. So now I'm going to put my color down here. I'm going to dilute that color. Dilute it again and drag it on out. And again, I feel like I really would like to see more color here. So I'm going to go back in, do it again. I'm going to add more color here. And I am going to dilute it a little bit and drag it on out. Notice I'm dragging it out after I dilute it. And then I'll pull this color on down. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, so when I go to do this one again, wait till they dry. Don't try to do them close like this until they've dried. I did this simply because I do not want to take up a bunch of your time, okay? So I would skip between, and again I can see right here I didn't wait long enough, and you can see that. I'm going to let you see it closer. You can see there's green is trying to bleed into my yellow. I feel like my yellow is a little light, but I think it's going to work for now. I only have to do 3 values on my color with my watercolors, and I have to do 4 values with my colored pencil. And the reason for that is most of us have had plenty of time to learn to use our color pencils. And then again, you're going to get some streaking if that bugs you. I understand. Go back and add a little color and bring it on down. Or if it's okay and you're not stressed by it, then that's okay too. I think as long as you start playing with and learning how to use your watercolors, you'll be okay. But we're making ourselves a color wheel. This is it. Okay, so I continued because I didn't want to take up all your time. It is still slightly damp. Oh no, it's okay now. So we're okay. I really wish I had taken the time and gone back over my blue, but I didn't, and it's okay. And so if things like this happen and disturb you, then you can do things. You can do something about it. Now, the next thing I'm going to suggest is, let's say you have a place where you got kind of crazy and you colored outside the lines. Well, just like we had that issue earlier, I can always go in here and I can add a design to that edge. So I can just make it a little wider. Using a ruler would be better. Or you can be like Miss Perkins and just wing it. Well, I'm just winging it here. And I'm stretching out my design. I can do all kinds of crazy things with this. I can do designs like right here. If I wanted to, I could go over, add something in here. I could put in lettering. I could write the word hue, which is another word for color. I could make more dots. I could get in here and think about green being a viney thing, so maybe I anything you do here, just make it where I can still see the variations of dark to light. So I do want you to go in here and play, and I'm doing it with the black pen because I started with the black pen earlier. But what other medium could we use? I could do other things. I could take those colored pencils that I was working with earlier, bring them back out, and maybe over here I could color, let's see, what is it I want to do? I could do a paisley shade. So we learned about paisley. Now when you make a mistake, make it twice. Do it like you did on purpose. Then I could play with a color. I could bring this blue from way over there over here. I can balance my color just like I was doing before. I don't think I was in the screen there. There we go. I think you could see all that I was doing there. And then I could bring the complements together. So like orange over to the blue. So maybe I could do something on top of the blue with the orange. And the blue on top of the orange. So play with the idea of complements. Blue and orange are complements. I could do the red and green are complements. Violet and yellow are complements. So again, you can go in here and actually decorate and design over. Just remember, I need to be able to see the 1, 2, 3, 4 values of a color. I need to be able to see the 1, 2, and 3 values. But this blue is not obstructing my ability to see those 3 values of orange. So just playing with it, I think getting in there and having a little fun, dealing with maybe a mistake that was made. I feel like this is a very heavy thing. So in order to balance this picture that I've created so much chaos on, maybe I should do it in another place, another dark line. And again, rulers are a good idea. It's kind of helpful. And then of course it does feel like I already messed this edge up. So why not just a little heavier right here, just to kind of help balance and cover up a mistake right there with the red and the red violet. That kind of works. It's not bugging me. And I can keep playing. I do want you to personalize your color wheel. Otherwise, everybody's is going to look exactly alike. So what you do with your color wheel, just keep it, you know, do your thing. Do whatever like suits you. If you have a specific thing you like to draw, then draw it. Just remember, we want to play with keeping it where I can actually read those values. And I can tell what is there. Have fun.